Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Paul, and in this Gaming Telecom video, we're going to be discussing and analysing tech news which, as usual, has popped up over the past 24 or so hours. We're going to be starting things out with Turing, specifically the RTX 2070 card, which is the lowest end SKU out of the current Turing lineup. Just a reminder, the 2060 and other cards will not launch until 2019, at least according to current information. But the 2070 will be available on the 17th of next month. So what about reviews? When will you know how this card performs? Well, it would appear that reviewers will be able to post their opinions on the 16th of next month. So in other words, 1 day prior to the cards going on store shelves. So the normal things apply here. If you are looking for a card that's probably around the GTX 1080, possibly up to slightly below the 1080 Ti in performance, and you've not currently jumped on Pascal and you're curious about ray tracing or maybe want to dabble with DLSS, then perhaps it might be a good option to go with the 20 series. Otherwise, you already know what the price is for these cards because, of course, Nvidia have announced that along with the specifications. Just a quick refresher on the specifications for those unfamiliar. We have 2,304 CUDA cores, 36 ray tracing cores, 288 tensor cores, 144 TMUs, 64 ROPs, and a clock speed of 1710 or 1620. That depends on whether it's the founders or the reference model, and that's the boost clocks, and the memory clock speed is 14 Gbps, 8 gigabytes of memory on a 256-bit bus. So the actual memory bandwidth is exactly the same as the 2080. Therefore, it's possible that this card may not fall behind as much as perhaps some people expect in regards to the 2080. It depends really how memory bandwidth starved the 2080 is. And of course, this is something that we're going to be testing over the next several months as reviewers. And of course, the big cut here is without question to the ray tracing cores. There is significantly fewer than what is found on the 2080. So it's possible that ray tracing performance of this GPU will be rather lackluster. But of course, we don't have enough benchmarks, and that's putting it incredibly mildly, to be able to test this with. And the cards are not out yet, so this is only something that we can test in the future. And now we're going to move over to Sony. One of the biggest criticisms of Sony with this generation of consoles is without question crossplay, or rather lack thereof. You might recall for a few days Fortnite did actually have crossplay enabled, but at the behest of Sony, well, it was removed. And of course, developers have been unable to put crossplay in the game, despite the fact that gamers, of course, have been demanding it. Nintendo have jumped on crossplay, Microsoft have jumped on crossplay, of course PC allows crossplay, but Sony have been adamant in their stance until today. It would appear that all of the pressure that people have been piling on Sony has finally caused them to cave in, and we have a beta for Fortnite which allows gamers to play no matter what the device with PlayStation users. Finally, there is a blog post available from SIE boss John Kodiri, and he has said, and I quote, "Following the comprehensive evaluation process, SIE has identified a path forward towards supporting cross-platform features for select third-party content. We recognise that PS4 players are eagerly awaiting an update, and we appreciate the community continued patience as we navigate through this issue to find a solution. Today is the first step in allowing open beta beginning today with Fortnite. The first step will be an open beta beginning today with Fortnite that will allow cross-platform gameplay progression and commerce across the PS4, Android, iOS, Nintendo Switch, Xbox One, Microsoft Windows, and Mac. We see the beta as an opportunity to conduct thorough testing to ensure cross-platform play is best on PlayStation, while being mindful about the user experience from a technical and social perspective." End quote. In other words, Sony are trying to spin this. They're essentially telling us that it was a difficult business decision, that they had to navigate business waters, and it was a very difficult thing. And we all know different. I mean, it was basically a flip of a switch from developers which would enable or disable this functionality. I think it's fair to say that while I am pleased Sony have finally added this feature into games like Fortnite, because, well, we've just been waiting so long. The fact is, we have been waiting so long. This isn't really Sony doing us a favor. This isn't them working super hard. This is them deliberately hampering crossplay because they wanted users to be kept in their walled garden. In other words, when you were buying Fortnite skins or purchasing anything from a game, they wanted to be sure that they were the ones who got the cash. Of course, the reality is, though, that it was actually putting people off from playing Fortnite and the PS4. Let's say you're a PC owner and you've also got a Nintendo Switch, which isn't unreasonable. They're three very different ecosystems. Well, why would you play on the PlayStation version when it is technically inferior? We're not even referring to the graphics here, we're just saying that you simply have a smaller pool of players. Sure, if all your friends have PlayStations, then you can make the argument. But there's a good chance that some of your friends would have a Switch, some of your friends would have the PC, some of your friends would have an Xbox or a different device. And there are so many devices here which Fortnite was cross-platform playable on. It just made sense to go with the larger gamut of players. Once again, unless all of the folks you know play on PlayStation. So Sony doing this isn't really a favour, it's more them just catching up, and I think it's bloody great that they've done it, but I really don't like the fact that they're trying to spin this and trying to take credit for something. When you're behind Nintendo on something like cross-platform, and we know how bad Nintendo have been over the past couple of generations. I mean, Switch Online subscription service is not exactly a shiny beacon of what you should put out. It's kind of a bad thing, and so I'm glad Sony are finally on the right side of history on this, but it took them bloody long enough, and I don't think that we gamers should necessarily just let them score a win. We should say, yeah, thanks Sony, but this is not something you've done out of the kindness of your heart. This is not a major business decision that was like some... We should say, thanks Sony for listening to us, but don't try to score this as a win. Don't try to score this as a victory for your consumers. You were actively fighting us against this and just hoping it went away, but our pressure made you cave in, and, well, there we go. While we're on the subject of consoles, let's discuss Microsoft and keyboard support for the Xbox One. This has been a long-rumoured feature, and then of course Microsoft confirmed it was coming, but now they have actually told us that we will see it soon, with Warframe being one of the first titles to show it, and it will be available in the coming weeks, although it's not exactly a specific day. So technically, coming weeks could be 2 weeks, or it could be like 300 weeks. But still, Microsoft have promised further information in their conference on November the Microsoft have promised further information in their November the 10th conference. Now, outside of titles such as first-person shooters, this also enables other games such as MMOs and point-and-click RPGs to be easily played on the console. This is something, of course, that technically you can. Now, outside of titles such as first-person shooters, this also enables other games such as MMOs and point-and-click RPGs to be easily played on the console. This is something, of course, that technically you can play point-and-click games on the console, but it's not exactly ideal. Even RTS titles, when they were kind of popular, like the original Command & Conquers and whatever, they were available. You could play them on the Sega Saturn and the PlayStation 1, but it just wasn't great. And back then there was PlayStation mice and whatever else available to help you navigate those stormy waters. But a full keyboard and mouse would be awesome, and it's going to be interesting to see how developers actually support this, what games are going to be supported, how titles which are competitive online are going to work. For example, if you're playing an FPS, let's say Call of Duty, our server's going to be segmented, so you have those players who are playing on keyboard and mice. Server's going to be segmented, so players with keyboard and mouse are going to be playing against other keyboard and mouse supported users. Perhaps they're also going to be able to play on against PC users. It's going to be really cool. With all of that said, hopefully you have enjoyed the video. Yes, it's a bit of a shorter one today because, well, there's a lot of stuff going on in the background in regards to reviews, a couple of scripts I'm working on for some explained videos, and just, well, other stuff. But with all of that said, thanks very much for checking out the video. I'd also like to give a quick shout out to HP Computers for loaning me the Omen X laptop. For those who don't know, I'm currently in the United States on kind of a working holiday, and because we're going to be reviewing several of their products when I get back, they've actually loaned me an Omen X laptop, which is a slightly older generation, just so I can get familiar with it, check out the features and so on. So that's really cool of them. This is not a sponsored video. No money's exchanged hands or anything. It was just kind of cool of them to loan me a nice, expensive laptop. With all of that said, thanks very much for watching. Take care of yourselves. Bye for now.